So if you want a luxury American three-row SUV, there's really only two choices. There's the Lincoln Navigator and the Cadillac Escalade, but Jeep wants to hop in that space and make you think of this vehicle. This is the 2022 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. We're gonna show you all about it, but before we do, if you're new to CarGurus, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, but let's go ahead and jump into this all-new vehicle. So one of the ways to tell the difference between a Grand Wagoneer and a non-Grand Wagoneer is the fact that it actually says Wagoneer here above your 7-slot grille. You also have a nice little Easter egg here in the bottom. So on the side, you're going to have these 22-inch wheels. It's gonna say Grand Wagoneer here with the American flag. You have this two-tone roof, metal accents going around these massive windows, and you also have these power deployable running boards that do hang really low. So the back of the Grand Wagoneer is actually my favorite because I think it looks the most unique on the entire car. It says Grand Wagoneer right back here. You have these really cool taillights, aluminum accents going underneath, aluminum accents on top. It's gonna say Series 3 over here, which is basically the highest level trim you can get, and Quadra drive, indicating that this is in fact all-wheel drive. So under the hood of the Grand Wagoneer, you have a 6.4 liter V8 making about 470 horsepower. Now on the Grand Wagoneer, this is the only engine option. If you go for the standard Wagoneer, you only get a 5.7 liter V8, and you can't even option this in the non-Grand Wagoneer. So if you want the big engine, you have to spend the big money to get that in the Grand Wagoneer. Now towing is also really good on here. This can tow about 9,850 pounds, which is very good, definitely class leading. And then you're also gonna have this plaque under here that says Wagoneer, says designed in Auburn Hills, Michigan, built in Warren, Michigan, and born in America with the American flag. Now MPG on this is gonna be 16 city, 22 highway. This has about a 26-gallon tank, so even if you're just getting that 16 on the city, this can do about 400 plus on one tank of fuel. So the inside of the Grand Wagoneer has a lot to it, so strap in. You're gonna have these quilted leather seats. They're heated, ventilated, and they massage you. You have this massive panoramic roof. You have a passenger screen right here. You can use that to control things like navigation. Someone can navigate here, shoot it to me, and then I can just begin my navigation. You can also look at things like the cameras on the side of the vehicle whenever you're parking. You have this nice wood here. It says Grand Wagoneer. You have your main touchscreen. On the side of the touchscreen, you're going to have your buttons for heated seats, ventilated seats, your different zones. You have that for passenger and for driver. This main screen has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You're gonna have a fam cam right here so you can look at all the kids in the back, see what they're doing, and it's actually facing downward, so if you have a rear-facing infant, you can see their faces, which is nice. On top of that, you have a physical mirror right here within your little sunglass holder that you can also use if you don't want to rely on a camera. Below that, you have another screen. I can use that to turn on my massage seat functions. I can access my lumbar support, any other adjustments on my seat, as well as things like front climate and rear climate. Now underneath that, if I hit this button, this screen is actually going to lift up. I have a wireless charging pad in there, as well as all of my auxiliary ports, USB ports, HDMI ports, any ports that you need. I do wish that that was in a different space, because in order to leave this plugged in, I have to leave that screen up so that way my cord doesn't get squished. So that's really my only complaint with that. Other than that, it's a really cool James Bond-esque setup. You have your shifter here, which is really nice because, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's real metal, feels really solid in your hands. All of your different drive modes to the left, your different suspension settings to the right, because this does have air suspension, you can raise and lower it accordingly. You are going to have your cup holders right in here. You have storage on top of your armrest here, which has two separated pads. I can push this button, lift that up, and you're going to have a cooler right in here, so you can put things like cold drinks and keep them cold on the duration of your trip. You're also gonna have a 2-spoke steering wheel. It's going to have adaptive cruise with steering assist. You have a full digital display here, a head-up display, a Macintosh sound system, which sounds incredible, and double pane windows to keep the entire cabin nice and quiet. So in the back, you have, no surprise, more screens. They're both gonna come with their own remote controllers. I can do things like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and anything else you can think of. You have HDMI ports in the bottom, so I can plug in something like a Fire Stick. You also have a 115 volt, so I can technically plug in something like a video game system, power it there, HDMI right here, and then get to gaming. Right here in the middle, you have another screen that's going to control things like your heated and ventilated seats for both rear passengers. You can also control your AC and climate through here. You have 2 cup holders, more storage right under here. You're going to have even more storage under here, and you're going to have sunscreen shades on both windows. So in the back seat, I'm going to have my own moonroof right up top. You have these massive windows, so it really lets in a lot of light. You don't feel as cramped here in the back. You have your own cup holder. You're going to have a USB and a USB-C back here. A little bit of storage space, your own vent right here off to the side. I can recline my rear seat by just pushing this button. And in terms of space, if I put this back, I still have a really good amount of room, being about 6 feet tall for reference. So in the back of the Grand Wagoneer, you have about 27.4 cubic feet of space, 116.7 cubic feet with all the seats folded down, which you can easily do by pushing these buttons here. Now, under the floor, you're going to have a little bit of extra storage there, as well as your crossbars located there, which you can easily mount on top of the roof. This closes in like a very nice, soft fashion. And then over to the left, you're just gonna have a little hooks to put things like bags, as well as your button to close the hatch. So driving the Grand Wagoneer, now one of the things I love about this vehicle, A, is the visibility, B is going to be how comfortable it is. And most of that is due to these seats. The seats are very comfortable. I'm actually getting a massage as I'm talking to you guys. And one of the features I always love that I didn't mention on the interior is this digital rear view mirror. Now, you can use that for multiple reasons. I personally prefer the digital rear view mirror, but even if you have people in the back or tall luggage, you can still flip this switch, turn on that digital mirror and still see behind you, and you can adjust it and all that good stuff, so that is pretty nice. Very large mirrors, so that helps with visibility on top of having those really small blind spot mirrors plus blind spot monitoring. One thing I think is weird is the way you can shift manually. It's just this little button here with a plus and a minus, and that's it. I kind of wish I had paddle shifters just to make it a little bit more interesting if I do decide to shift myself. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this is fine for most people, or would you rather actually have paddle shifters? Now let's talk about power. So the 6.4 liter V8 is very well tuned, very smooth, very effortless power. So for example, I'm getting onto the highway, I need to merge, so I need to get up to speed, foot down, and it gets up pretty good. Good amount of power. Definitely plenty of power for this vehicle, if not a little bit more power than most people will actually need. But it is pretty fast actually, so that is very surprising to me. It gets up and goes really well. The all-wheel drive system does an incredible job, and the transmission on here is excellent. Very fast shifts, very effortless shifts that you don't feel at all. So I think that is excellent when it comes to just the overall serene feeling of the vehicle. Other than that, I really think that the MPG is really just going to be the worst part. Okay, so let's talk competition. Cadillac Escalade, Lincoln Navigator. Those are the big competitors for this vehicle. And I have to admit, Escalade is going to feel a little bit more cocooned in terms of being isolated from the outside world. It does feel a little bit nicer in terms of the materials. Everything feels a little bit more put together, a little bit more solid in the Escalade. When it comes to something like the Navigator, this feels just a tiny bit below a Navigator. Navigator feels a little bit nicer than this, a little bit more put together, a little bit more posh. The ride is a little bit more nice. But the Grand Wagoneer, I think out of the three, the Grand Wagoneer would probably be the closest feeling to the Navigator, which is actually a big compliment for Jeep, considering this is the first time they've made something within this tier of vehicle. So they did an excellent job. I don't think it's an Escalade killer by any means, but I do think that if you like Jeep, if you like the way Jeep does things, if you like the setup, the look, then this is a really solid vehicle. Okay, now let's talk pricing. So to get into a Grand Wagoneer, not the Wagoneer, just the Grand Wagoneer, it's about $86,900. To get this exact Wagoneer that you've seen in this video, it's roughly $108,000. So that is quite a bit of money, especially for a Jeep, which nothing wrong with Jeep, it just doesn't have that level of prestige that most people who aren't very, very knowledgeable when it comes to luxury vehicles or what different brands are offering, they just associate certain brands like Cadillac or like Lincoln with luxury. They don't necessarily associate Jeep with luxury, and that may be a negative hit for this vehicle for some people. But if you don't care about the prestige, if you just want a vehicle that gives you a lot for your money, this arguably gives you a lot of vehicle for your money. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think the badge is more important than the quality of the car, or do you think the quality of the car is dependent on the badge? So that's gonna wrap up the review of the Grand Wagoneer. Now, this is an excellent car, but it doesn't come without its pros and cons. I'd say the cons with this would be that in reality, it doesn't really feel quite as posh, quite as fancy or nice as something like a Cadillac Escalade or a Lincoln Navigator. The pros are that it's actually not far off, considering this is Jeep's first attempt at something like this, and you get a little bit more features than you do in those vehicles. Most of those features are pretty family friendly, which is a huge plus. But let me know what you guys think. Would you choose this Grand Wagoneer over something like a Lincoln Navigator or a Cadillac Escalade? Comment below, let us know. But if you guys are new to CarGurus, we would love to have you subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell so you never miss an upload, and visit us on CarGurus.com. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next review.